Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. If you're new here, it's great to have you here. And if you're back again, welcome back. So I'm here today to explain how you can design your Instagram grid layout in a more aesthetic way, which you'll find will benefit you in the long run as a business or a blogger.
Ilona, before you give a wonderful introduction about yourself, why don't we do the polls?
Yes, sure.
And I'll do those for you so that we can get an idea of who we've got in the audience. Also, just from a housekeeping perspective, if anybody would like to write a question in the Q&A or in the chat, I'll try and answer the questions. This isn't my subject. It's not my specialty subject, so I might have to answer the questions at the end. We should have quite a lot of time for questions at the end as well. So bear with me. Let's get the polls started. So there's only one poll today, but you are able to answer more than one question or more than one answer rather. So it's basically a question about how you use Instagram. And I'm going to read the answers out so that it's recorded in the video. So first of all, I don't or rarely use Instagram for any purposes at all. I occasionally use my personal Instagram account. I'm an Instagram addict. I think that's you, isn't it, Ilona?
Yeah.
For purposes, particularly. I've not yet set up a business profile or started to use Instagram for my business. I have posted a few times for my business, for example, monthly or for ad hoc announcements. I post at least once a week for my business, but need help with strategy or tactics. I post at least once a day for my business and want some tips. It's a really interesting mix today. It's very, very, very spread out. We've got about 20% of people that post for their personal accounts. And we've got about 20% of social addicts or Instagram addicts. When we go to the business side, it's quite even actually. We've got about the numbers are fluctuating a bit. About 14% haven't set up anything for business at all, which is probably the most important number for you to know. But we've got about 30% of the people have posted pretty regularly, either monthly or daily. And then there's another 13%. And this is not percentage; they don't all add up to 100%. It's 13% of the people that have clicked that answer that actually are quite regular. So you've got a nice mix there, Ilona. So I'm going to disappear now, and I will come back about 5 minutes towards the end. But I will see if I can answer any questions in the chat. And just to remind you, there's handouts and video which you can help yourself to, and you'll receive the video later. So good luck. Speak to you in a bit.
Bye. Okay. I'm back. I'm just going to go in and introduce myself before we jump in. So I am a senior social media exec at Annika for just over 2 years. I think it's been about 2.5 now. And I've got over 5 years experience in digital marketing. My passion actually stems from a hybrid interest in psychology and creativity, which you'll find is actually important when sort of going into digital marketing. I myself, as Anne has emphasized, I'm a social media junkie. I love social media, especially Instagram and TikTok. I worked on both B2C and B2B clients across many industries, and in my spare time, I like enjoying creative activities such as painting and also poetry. These are examples of the brands we've worked with, for any of you that are curious. So let's get into it then. 9 ways to design your Instagram grid layout. So why does your Instagram content matter? So Instagram was created for photos and videos. So visual appeal is one of the key factors in making or breaking Instagram success, let alone the first impressions of your viewers. Your Instagram feed is a visual voice for your brand. So utilize the platform to share your products or services in a creative way. With roughly over 1 billion monthly active users on Instagram, it's important that your content shines. Your grid layout is one impression closer to getting to the right audience. So before we jump in, what exactly are Instagram grid layouts? So I'm sure you've seen this image on the right. It's everywhere when you go onto someone's page. So your Instagram layout grid is the feed of visuals your Instagram shares on the platform. So here are some points worth considering before uploading an image. Is the image quality consistent with previous uploads? Does the image align with your brand colors? And if not, there are image editing apps to help manipulate the color with filters. Will it complement the other images on your Instagram feed? So there's an app actually called Preview, which allows you to test this before uploading. Would your audience appreciate the image even if there was no caption? So the image itself should be strong enough to speak, and we obviously suggest uploading it with a caption, but it should be strong enough without one. So on to the tips then. Tip number 1, consider viewing your Instagram page as a visitor. So when a person opens your account, a few rapid fire decisions are made. Are they going to read your bio? Are they going to click the URL link in your bio? Are they going to follow you? Are they going to dig through your content to learn more? Are they going to comment or like your images? All those rapid fire decisions are reliant on your Instagram grid layout. If the viewer doesn't like the thumbnail layout, they will most likely swipe off your page and not consider any of the above. Tip number 2, use a separate app to design and plan your feed prior to uploading your Instagram posts. So there are many apps out there which help you plan your Instagram feed prior to uploading. So I use Preview, as I've mentioned, and it's an app available for both Android and iOS. It's free and gives you the opportunity to upload images or videos, which then appear as a mock example of an Instagram layer grid app. So as you can see on the right, that's an example. It sort of gives you the opportunity to test it before you actually upload onto Instagram. It gives you an idea as to how it would look and whether any content needs tweaking in order to correctly align with your desired layout. Tip number 3, choose a default filter to achieve a consistent look. So as Instagram has matured, so has the quality and creativity of the people who use it. That's why photography apps are so useful. Finding the right tool can really help level up your Instagram game and set you apart from your competition, which you'll find a lot of competition is out there, and it's good to keep an eye on them. So as you can see on this image on the right, there's a bit of a example of someone who hasn't used filters against someone who has. It just enhances the entire look. Even if it's slightly, it does make a difference. I've put in some examples of free editing apps, so you can look at these once you've been sent, or you can note these down. But VSCO is a great one in terms of filters and the adjustment of brightness, saturation, etc. Facetune is great, and it gives you the same options. We've got Snapseed. Snapseed is a bit more creative. It gives you a bit of an interesting creative touch. You can actually start adding your own little images to it, sort of like not GIFs, but other alternative images, which makes it look a bit more interesting. Lightroom is another editing adjustment app, so it just sort of changes the colors. And then PixArt is also an interesting one because it gives you a lot of different filters, but also a lot to add to it. So text overlays and so many other creative things that I can't even list. So that's worth testing if you want to really jump out of your comfort zone. Here are some examples of editing and the impact it has. So as you can see in the first image, it's quite dark and dull. That's the initial image that the blogger took, for example, versus the editing touches she's put after. Same applies for the image on the right. You've got more of a typical contrast and saturation once you've taken the picture. But once you start cropping it and aligning it to your feed, it will start to look much better and much more appealing, which then results in more engagement. Are you looking to use text in your images? If so, try and keep it consistent. So on an Instagram layout grid, the last thing you want to do is flood it with plenty of quotes or testimonials, especially if the text features different colors and fonts. It looks unprofessional, so the best thing to do is always have a go-to font and color scheme relevant to your branding. A great app actually for this is Canva. So it's an app and you can also use it on your computer, and it's a free online software. There is an option of subscribing monthly for additional perks and features, but I personally find it just as useful for the free option, so don't feel pressured to buy into a monthly fee. This alone has changed the game for a lot of businesses because it's so convenient to use. You don't need Photoshop like a lot of people used to rely on that back then, but now we've got Canva, where it's literally much easier to use in comparison to Photoshop, and it's just so creative. There's so much you can do on it. So here on the left, you can see the example, the first example looks quite messy. There's so many different things to see. There's so much text. It's very text heavy, which a lot of people don't appreciate on Instagram. Bear in mind, it's a visual platform. The last thing you want to do is have it text heavy. But on the right, you can see a balance between imagery and also text that has consistent sort of font and color. It's not to say you have to keep it like that, but it's just to show that there's much more of a visual appeal to the second one in comparison to the first, which looks a bit spammy in my opinion. Tip number 5, so don't be afraid to experiment. Sometimes as a business, you might feel limited and might assume that creativity demolishes the professional side of your company. This is not the case. Experiment with creative techniques when taking pictures for Instagram. So at first, it might be out of your comfort zone, but once you see the engagement rate increase, you'll be addicted to your experimental journey. So experimenting methods include adopting new filters, taking pictures or products of your products or services in a unique and diverse manner. So it can be literally going outside to take a picture of your product, or shooting your service in an entirely different way. Testing with video content. So a lot of people shy back from content a lot, which is video based, because they think, well, I don't think I'm going to get the views, or I don't think people will be interested in what we have to say as a company. But so many people are interested in video on Instagram, especially on IGTV, and even on your stories. There's so many ways to engage with your viewers. And with that being said, video is really important. Experiment with new editing methods. So as you can see on the right, this clearly isn't a dog on a cloud. They've edited this. And it's just so interesting because you get the right feedback. People speak about, how fun it is as an agency, or the company itself. They're showing that they can be different from their competitors. And doing things like this will obviously increase comments. It will increase likes. People who like dogs, and the entire aesthetic of this is just so fun. Tip number 6, create a monthly timeline of what you would like to post. So a lot of companies hold back from this purely because they don't have the time. They think, well, I can't post every day. But it's about what you post about. Once you've planned it, it's actually easier to understand what you post about. So if you're a blogger or business owner, you must think about what you are most passionate about and what you want your Instagram to be known for. So pick a few things that you absolutely love about your product or service and boast about it. Examples include the team you have worked with, the USP or product of your product or service, the motivation or reason behind your company, relevant quotes that resonate with your company. So here on the right, we've got the Adidas page, the Instagram page. So let's dissect them for a moment. We can see that there's video content featuring brand ambassadors. They're really strong on their brand ambassadors, and actually having that on a consistent basis does get them the feedback that they want. They maintain similar theme across all the posts. So as you can see, it's very consistent, and I can guarantee on every caption, there's a story behind the person that's being in that shot. Then inspirational quotes, because usually you find with sport brands, they like to give people the motivation to actually get into sports or fitness. And having this implemented into their branding is so important because it really shows who they are and what their mission is. And they also showcase new product launches, which is obviously essential, but they do it in such an aesthetic way so that it doesn't look cheap, or there's not a lot of text overlay in different fonts. It's just very simple to understand as a brand. Here's an example of a monthly Instagram post calendar. So I've actually created this, and it's featured in the handouts. So if you are interested in taking this, it's in an Excel spreadsheet. And it basically allows you to add the sort of content you're planning throughout the month, and you can use the same planner and just refill it once the month is over, or duplicate it, whatever works for you. But here I've just done a template, and as you can see, it's quite small to read, but the key examples, so you've got quotes, blog posts about the team, product launch, experiment, and other. You can, of course, replace those keys with something that's more relevant to your brand, or something, another key phrase that you might be considering on a monthly basis. And then you would just slowly start to fill this. I would suggest at the start of each month, and commit to it, because once you've committed to this, it almost feels like not more of a chore, but more so a task for you to complete, and it actually feels great once you've once you've seen it all posted, or you like tick it off. You just feel great about knowing that you've committed to that. And you will see a person who posts maybe 5 times a month in comparison to committed to something like this. You'll notice that the engagement is going to spike massively, because regardless of how many times you post, you're still keeping that consistency, which actually Instagram algorithms really do favor. So this is available if you'd like to download it. Tip number 7. So keep your images or videos simple to look at and understand. So there are usually 2 approaches to social media photography, and it's simple or overkill. So with social media, it's ultimately about the visual appeal and how your brand is presented. There's enough overcrowded content on the internet. So having a simple layout is bound to have an effective and refreshing change for once. So in order to do this, make your product or service in the center of attention by positioning it in the center of your photos. So as you can see, as in this example on the right, it's in the center. It's very clean, very aesthetic. This is Chanel, actually. So you'll find that if you go onto the Chanel Instagram page, a lot of their branding does consist of that sort of clean look. Look at the background of the image as well. So whether you have to move your angle to capture an emptier surrounding, whatever works for you, just understand that once you're taking the picture, just try and visualize it on your Instagram feed. Is it going to work? Do you think you need more brightness? Do you think it needs to be positioned in an entirely different room because of the lighting? There's so many things to consider. And a lot of people overcomplicate it, actually, which is the problem, because people think, well, I wish I could just take a picture of the product and just upload it immediately. But there's so much to it that you can do, but in so short amount of time. So in 10 minutes, you can entirely change the aspect and creativity of an image just by editing it, essentially, and choosing the right direction in terms of the shot you're taking. So those are just some things to consider. And once you've noticed that the consistency is there on your Instagram page, you're going to be encouraged to continue that. It's a habit worth building. As much as I mentioned filters and sort of push that out there, also I would recommend going easy on the filters too. So excessive filters are known to throw people off. One thing I try to avoid is the Instagram filters itself. So within the app, you have the option of editing. The editing features are fine. You can increase the brightness, exposure. There's so much you can do to it now in comparison to before, where there was just simple generic filters, and they don't impact the image as much as you think. It gives it like a bit of a cover rather than enhancing the product or whatever it is you're trying to post. So having external apps are important, because you can really emphasize the stronger points of your product or service just by manipulating the colors, essentially. So that's just something to consider. Simplicity is essentially key most of the time. Tip number 8, so prioritize your audience. It may take a bit of research, but learning about your audience will allow you to understand what they're into. So if you get to know your audience, you can begin to create content which is more relevant and what they would like to engage with. So the best way to learn about your audience is to check your insights on a daily basis to see which posts are performing best. So if you are a business or creator influencer on the app, considered business, as the page, then you can log into your page and find insights there. So the insights will allow you to find so much about your audience in terms of demographics, the age bands, female or male, which is actually important. If you have a beauty brand targeting females and you have 60% that are male, you might need to reconsider the audience and the content you're posting for your audience, because it's clearly pulling interest to the wrong audience, essentially. So there's a lot to consider before you actually post your content. Review your insights right now, well, when you have the chance to, rather, and just see if that's the ideal audience for you. If it's not, what can be changed? What do you think would be able to impact or sort of ideally want you to pull in that audience that you want? So that's just something to consider. The insights is really important. You can also, on insights, you can also sort it by the number of likes and impressions and over a custom period of time. So I can, for example, go into my account and sort the number of likes over the last year, and it will give me the top performing posts reflective on likes. And what that's going to do is basically tell me which content is working for my audience. What does my audience like? If I notice that there's a trend, for example, the images that I post of bags, for example, they have over 1,000 likes in comparison to a picture of jewelry, which might have only 200 likes. So something like that, if you see such a difference, it might be worth holding back on posting too many different things and rather keeping it consistent. Find out when your users are most active. So you can upload your post at the right time. So this is also via insights. You'll be able to notice when people are most active. And this is reflective on an hourly basis and also on a daily basis. So from Monday to Sunday, you're able to analyze the number of people that are online. It sort of gives you a bar chart. And same applies for the hourly sort of demographic there. So how many people are watching or online rather active. For example, it might sort of show a bar chart with 9 p.m. spiking, and that says, well, most of your audience is online at that time. What does that mean? Well, if you post at 9 p.m., you're more likely to get engagement because people see your post in comparison to posting at 12, which might have the lowest number of people watching. And this does make a change on a long-term basis. So if you do start scheduling on platforms, for example, there's external platforms such as Hootsuite. Hootsuite allows you to post and schedule things. So if you were to go onto that, for example, you can post and schedule at 9 p.m. or when you might feel like you're not available at that time, just schedule it. I don't think I've mentioned Hootsuite on here, but that's something we could possibly cover if you do have any questions about it. It's a free tool online. There is a subscription available, but the Hootsuite free version is just as great. And prioritizing your audience also means analyzing your competitors. So Instagram accounts there's plenty of competitors out there, I can guarantee, across businesses. So it's best to actually have a bit of a browse, maybe take a day to just look at your competitors and do a bit of an audit in terms of what's working well for them. Which posts are actually performing best? Is it that they post videos and you don't? Is it that they hashtag particular things that you might have missed? Or is it that they've maybe done a competition several times that you haven't even delved into yet? So there's a lot of things you can learn from your competitors, especially if they're achieving higher engagement rates in comparison to you. I would say never be put off, but always take it as motivation, because end of the day, you can get there. It's just they apply that consistency, or they probably have a higher budget, for example, but you can do it without having that. Tip number 9, so review your content on a bi-weekly or monthly basis. So reviewing your Instagram content on a recurring basis allows you to make a judgment on whether things need adjusting. So evaluate your Instagram layout grid with the following questions. Are the colors, layout, tone, and overall feeling of your Instagram page consistent? Does an image or video you've previously uploaded not fit in? If so, you might choose to either archive or delete the post. Now, I'm not telling you to delete posts or archive them, but it's more so if you are planning to keep that consistency, that's an option. You can either archive it, so it doesn't mean it's deleted. You can always pull it back onto your feed if you want, or you can delete it entirely if you just think, well, I'm over this post, I think it just doesn't work, and that way you can either delete it and actually re-upload it with an edit. So you might decide, well, this one doesn't actually have an edit, I'm going to re-upload this with an edit and more hashtags, for example, which might outperform your previous activity. Just make sure you don't have it re-uploaded with the previous activity, with the previous post still there, because it will look spammy. You're posting the same thing essentially. Is there anything you would improve about your layout? So maybe you want a small change, such as tweaking the saturation of your images. It doesn't go to say again that you need to archive or delete anything. It just means next time I'm going to add a filter that might look better, and you'll just keep that consistency as you go. And also start implementing those changes on your next post. So gradually build your ideal layout. You don't have to start fresh, even on the content you have right now. Don't go in and delete everything or archive everything. It's more so next time I plan on doing this, and just keep it consistent and see how that works for 30 days. And of course, there might be days that you might feel, well, I just don't have the time to post, which is absolutely fine. Don't feel obliged to post every single day. But of course, in favor of Instagram's algorithm, it is highly recommended. But that is the Instagram layout. So we get inspired. This is businesses right here. We've got examples. So we've got Take Recess. So they promote drinks, but you can see they do it in such a way that is, this is on the left. This is, it's really creative. The colors are strong, they're consistent. You can see that they have a color scheme based on their brand, which is important. And they do fun posts. So songs you heard in a dream, and it's got a video there. And it's just contradictory, but in the most creative way that you think, what is this brand? Or I'm going to go on their website. I really want to see what they do. Like this drink looks cool. Which back then you'd see like posts like, I'd say advertising ages ago, the cool was Coca-Cola. So I think Take Recess is probably just trying to get to that level where they're known for that brand. Coca-Cola is known for the red color and the white text, and I think they're trying to implement that same sort of feature, which works. It looks great. You've got Hostel World here. So they promote sort of journeys and hotel advocates sort of related sort of images here. So you can see in the center, it's quite consistent, even though you could consider it as a bit of a messy show because there's so many different things to look at. It really is consistent because they're posting the same relevant content. It's on topic to what they're trying to post. I can guarantee most of the time in their captions, they're not saying go onto our website, because the last thing you want to do is sound too salesy, but it's more so, you know, can't wait for a journey next year or something, or you know, can't wait for COVID to be over. But this is an example. We've got the other one on the right here. So this would be, I believe, a vitamin or some sort of power drink. So that one there is obviously colourful. It's staying in brand. It's got people holding it. Sort of that's a classic. Look, I've got the product in my hand, which they get a lot of influencers and ambassadors to do. And even their own social media sort of manager or whoever's managing that, they go out there. They're probably living near the coast and they're just taking pictures. So that's you know, it's lovely to see that the consistency is there, and I hope this inspires you. We've also got inspiration for bloggers. So this is another consistent look. A lot of them use a very strong filter that resonates and keeps them distant from everyone else. So they've got, you know, the first one is a bit more orange, so it's looking like a saturation toned, sort of summery look. In the center, we've got more of a chilled out tone, sort of mother and daughter activities. And then on the right, we've got more of a girly aesthetic there, which I'm sure they're you know, that they're looking at trying to get the female audience to follow them so that they can endorse and get you know, more companies, for example, to endorse them. So that's basically aesthetics and how important it is, and it can be pushed aside quite a lot with businesses. But I hope from this you can begin to prioritize and enjoy the journey, because it's fun, it's creative. Don't hold back from it. And there's so much you can do with Instagram.
Excellent. Well, we've got quite a lot of questions. There was a few things that you said as we were going through that I'd like to you to explain in a little bit more detail. So you mentioned IGT. I know what that is, but I don't know whether everybody else, you didn't explain as you went along. So it'd be really nice for you to explain what that is while I look in the Q&A for a few more for you.
Of course, yeah. So IGTV is actually a recent introduction to Reels on Instagram, and I'm not sure if any of you have been on TikTok before, but TikTok is essentially a social media platform that takes up your entire screen. So you have nowhere to go when you're on TikTok apart from on TikTok. The video is right in front of you. You have to tap to click the comments. You have to tap to sort of move away or go on someone's profile. So it's great to have that full screen experience, which Instagram recently adapted. And once you go on Instagram Reels, it gives you the option to continue scrolling through videos, and it gives you a lot of time in comparison to posting on your feed, where you can post longer videos. I personally wouldn't suggest posting long videos. I think around up to 5 minutes is the recommendation, just because you don't want to excessively sort of post a video that might consume someone's time or they might lose interest. But under 5 minutes, I've seen videos that last about 2 minutes, and I've watched them all. And they're great ways to build engagement. The best thing about Reels, which I've personally found, is that they have the potential of landing on your Explore page. Now, Instagram's Explore page is great because what happens is the algorithms start to kick in. So it's no longer about you feeding this knowledge to your followers. It's about you finding new followers, or new followers finding you. So one example for me, for example, would be I posted a reel, and I thought, oh, it would just sort of go to my followers and they'd find it on my Explore page. Little did I know it exploded and had over 10,000 views because it went on the Explore page. So it's a great way of just showing people what you're about, and there's definitely a creative gap there for you to start testing with video. I would personally suggest that if you're shooting video, you use a phone and shoot it sort of portrait rather than landscape, as it would help with the viewability when people are watching your stuff. And of course, it's just it's a fundamental nowadays. I think a lot of people have started using it. I'm pretty sure you've come across it, and it's addictive as well. So you'll find if you jump onto a reel, you're more likely to keep swiping until it's about midnight. So it's a good one.
I just wanted to bring up on actually on the photography, because you've gone on about how important photography is, but I think people forget the fact that they've got a very, very high powered camera in their pocket. So tell us more about the importance of staging, styling, lighting, positioning, which you sort of went on with the Chanel example. Irrespective of whether you've got an iPhone or an Android phone, a smartphone. Tell us more about how you use the photography as a creative tool.
Sure. So I'll take one of our clients as experience. So we had GFL, glasses, frames, and lenses. And at first, when they asked us to do photography, I sort of panicked because I was like, oh gosh, we need like thousands of pounds worth of equipment, and it's sort of a lot of pressure. But we took it in and we understood their sort of creative needs, because all they had on their website were product images. It was literally just an image with a white background. And we said, well, we can elevate this. So what are we going to do? Well, all we did was get a white table or any sort of surface you've got. It could be your bed. And we also got, whether it's blankets, a sort of clear white blanket, or even I think on Amazon you can find these photography flat surface sort of I'm not sure what the word is, but I'm sure there's like the flat surface image boards, and you can just lay those down and put your products on and actually start taking pictures with your phone. And I know it's crazy, but this phone along with flash goes a really long way, because I personally have done a lot of project images with this phone, and the quality is insane. And I'm not trying to favor iPhones, but from my experience, iPhones have worked best.
Yeah, you just need the new Samsung 21, which blows it out of the water. But also you can buy like mini lighting tents as well on Amazon to get better quality lighting as well, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. There's ring lights. So ring lights are really popular. If you're a blogger, ring lights are great for sort of taking pictures or taking them with you places. There's flashlights, so they're quite small, compact ones, and they're just battery based, so you don't need a lot of power for that. It's just battery based, or even there's plug-in ones if you're interested. And you use those. It changes the entire mood of the image. And if you feel like in the room you're not going to be blessed with lighting, there's just sometimes it's just a really dull day in England, and you're going to want to enhance that brightness. Well, what do you do?
I can tell you want to go on holiday, Ilona. You've mentioned going away about 4 or 5 times.
I'm waiting for it.
Well, I've had my jab, so I'm allowed to go away soon. It's going to be amazing. So
it's going to be the best holiday.
There were a few questions. Let me just go. So just go to the Q&A. So Tanisha, which I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, should Reels, videos, IGTV be on grids if they're aesthetically pleasing?
So what you can do actually with Reels is you can upload your own thumbnail on it. This is a new sort of feature. Initially, you couldn't do this, but I believe you can now. So if you do feel like the aesthetic might be broken because you uploaded a reel on your post as well as uploading onto IGTV, you might find that it breaks the aesthetic. What you can do now is actually upload your own thumbnail, and that will allow you to manipulate that thumbnail essentially on your grid layout without having it affects your actual IGTV reel upload, because once you click onto it, it will be a totally different experience. So people might be even, you could say they get sort of not manipulated, but they click on an image of your IG reel on your post, and then it ends up being a totally different video, which is great. It works. So I would advise trying to upload a thumbnail next time you do an IG reel.
If you click over to the Q&A tab, you'll see that there's a big question from Chris. It's about reporting and insights, and he's asking whether there's any third-party tools. Coincidentally, we had we use a tool called Social Sprout, which we've had for a long time actually, and we did a demo yesterday, and that's got quite a lot of insights. And we also pulled quite a lot of reports over to Data Studio, which Ed did a talk about. And we use Supermetrics as a plugin to pull the data across. But while you're reading that question, is there anything else that you'd recommend about getting that extra level of data?
I think that, yeah, those are the main ones that we use. In terms of pulling extra data, I don't have any other platforms. I think those are the ones. I think Hootsuite does provide you with some information, but it's not top level because I think you need to subscribe for that. But it gives you the sort of generic information you need. But yeah, those are the ones. I would say with Instagram Insights, it does give you a lot of information, especially the posts and recognizing the higher valued posts in comparison to the low ones. So just try and delve into that and understand it. And I would say if you want to do a clean sort of audit of your page, start with that, and also start doing some competitor analysis as well, because that will go hand in hand with your next content.
Okay, there's quite a few other questions. So there's some questions. Yeah, there's a question about insight on the people who are most active. Is your followers specifically, or everybody on Instagram? So you do get some insights on followers, don't you, within the admin panel of Instagram?
Yeah, it shows your follower growth. So it gives you sort of line graph in terms of how your page is growing. So it will give you that main figure there. Yeah.
Now, Chris has asked an interesting question about promoting services and how that compares with products. I know you did some training this week for 2 very special young ladies that I've got a connection with Annika. One's my daughter and one's the partner of my co-director, who both have services. So Penny's a mobile hairdresser, and Kirsty's got a sensory experience for children, toddlers. So how did you advise them and anybody else to promote their service using Instagram?
It's really simple. It's actually Very similar. So the things you're promoting in as a service, for example, of course, our agency is a service. So what would we do? It means promoting our team. What are we? Who are we? You're speaking about the mission rather than the product. So I understand that a lot of product-based companies, they promote their USPs, for example, environmental friendly, or cruelty-free, for example. Those are USPs. But what would your service do? So what's different from your competitor is the main question. What are you doing that is even more cost effective for your user? What are you giving your user that will enable them to understand more about you? And bear in mind, and with a service, it's very easy to go to that salesy tone where you say, book a call with us today, or give us a call. It's like that doesn't need to be done, essentially, because they've got the email and the telephone option for as a business page. If someone wanted to, they would, but the main point is that you actually emphasize who you are, what you do. Upload videos. You can be the CEO and you can say, I want to let you guys know a bit about me. So what actually inspired me to create this? I wanted to say, for example, open an agency because I feel like there wasn't a niche in creativity. I want to give people the chance to explore their creativity. And once people start to resonate with that, they'll begin to follow you, they'll begin to be interested in your services, and they'll start showing you that engagement. Once you have that engagement, start building that slowly with IG Reels, Instagram stories. You've got Instagram highlight stories as well. Once you've built those, you can start even mentioning prices starting from, for example. Those are really good as services, because when you're promoting yourself as a service, a lot of people might consider you as expensive in comparison to a £10 product. They might say, well, am I going to spend £1,000 on this service? Well, you haven't mentioned the price at all, so they're going to be thinking that it's over 2,000, for example. So there are so many ways to adapt your conversation as a service. Try and keep it as product oriented as possible, because essentially your service is a product, you're trying to sell it. So approach it like that. Upload the creativity, do an internal Q&A with your team, things like that make it nice and fun. And once you've got that, you'll start to see the engagement.
So really, it's culture and community, isn't it? So Chris' examples were things like legal, recruitment, HR. You've got to remember that people buy from people. So people buy from Annika because we know our staff and we're really friendly and we try and be helpful and we're quite family orientated. And you see that in the photography on the website. You see the community, you see the diversity, you see the females, the multicultural aspects of what we do. You see the charity stuff. So it's about getting that across. And people have come to us and said the reason they apply for a job at our place is because it wasn't bland white faces, middle-aged men in, sorry, anybody that's white and middle-aged men. I'm not going to go down the politically wrong route here. But what I'm trying to say is it was the diversity and the mix of cultures and the community that actually attracted people, and you buy from people that are similar to yourself. So I think that's really important to try and get that across. And I guess some people are much more successful. So is there any really good examples that you can think of, Ilona?
In terms of services?
Yeah, or companies that really do this well, that, not just selling a product. Is there anything that, because you've done some B2B work on Instagram, haven't you?
Yeah, in terms of there's a lot of beauty brands I know, of course. Beauty brands are great with sort of promoting their services. So Look Fantastic is an example. Feel Unique is a great one. They repost a lot of people's sort of testimonials, but very indirectly. So testimonials are a great way to actually achieve that, because what you're doing now is you're no longer closed in as a business on your page. You're now saying, this customer loves us, or this customer has just posted a reel of us and we wanted to re-upload it. When you start engaging like that and corresponding with people's interests, you start saying, this is no longer a company, this is more of a community now. And once you've got that community, you can start building with your imagery and have a bit more fun with it, because that community will support it. But there's so many out there. I mean, I can't not list. It's just, yeah, a lot of companies that I'm following are doing this, and it's great to see, because but the only problem is it's becoming competitive for a lot of people. It's more of a fight between two companies, because they're like, well, ours is more creative, we use the different filters.
Okay, let's go to some more technical question then. So can any of the editing be done on a desktop or a laptop, or is everything done on a mobile phone? This might be a silly question. Apologies in advance. No, there's no silly questions here. You actually mentioned quite a few apps. Are they mobile-based apps or are they desktop-based apps? Because I use Canva on a desktop, for example.
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, I believe Visco might be available on PC, but a majority of them that I've listed are on your phone. Of course, they're Android and iOS friendly, so that's not a problem. And they're actually easier to use, surprisingly, on your phone in comparison to on a computer, for example. So yeah, the only one that I would highlight out is Canva, which you can use on both your phone and computer. I personally use it on both, so it depends on where I am and what I'm doing. So if I'm on a break and I'm actually doing something for myself, I'd use my phone. But if it's for our agency, for example, definitely use the online version on the computer.
Ruth's question is about the timing. So, for example, in WordPress, you can change the publication date of a blog so you can get them in the order that you want. So what she was asking really is that can you move stuff around, or do you have to delete them and repost them to get them in the order that you want? Is there a mechanism of changing the order or the publication date?
Unfortunately not. Not on Instagram at the moment, at least. They've not pulled that option out just because every post you do is reflective on the engagement, and it confuses users if they did want to find a post and it sort of got lost in your order. So the only way to do that is by archiving or deleting posts that you might feel would change that timeline.
Okay. Mark has made a good point about consistency and updating your brand guidelines. So if you are, if you do decide to change your look or you go for a slightly different color, then that needs to be consistent across all your other media, which I think is a really useful point. Somebody's asked about the recording. Yes, that will be around later on. Somebody's asking about natural light. I think there's a few people helping you out here with some tips. There is a question here from Richard. What's the copyright situation using other images on Instagram? Ooh,
it's a tricky one. I would personally say try to avoid using other people's Instagram photos only because it's not original. When a user finds that you're stealing, it's not the best impression as a business. But the alternative is if you wanted to take a quote from someone's page, so an inspirational quote, for example, you would take that and then in the caption sort of give them a CC, give them a bit of a shout out. So give their user handle that bit of this is who provided this image. So that's the best way.
Ismay actually recommended a product called Regram, or an app called Regram, which reposts other people's images but gives them the credit. I'm not sure. Have you used that one before?
Yeah, a while ago. A lot of people nowadays with Regram, I've not seen it for a while, but I'm assuming it's because of it doesn't look professional when it has the little Regram image on the corner. It looks quite, it messes up the feed a bit. So what people do instead is they'd screenshot it or they'd save it as an original image, and then they would feature or tag them so that everyone is aware who the originator of the image is. But Regram is a great opportunity to use.
Richard's also asking about spam, and lots of dodgy links in inbox and added to group chats, etc. So anyone get a lot of spam, dodgy followers on Instagram that they all have blocked? Yeah, so he's asking, can they all be blocked at once, or do you have to go through them one at a time to get rid of any spammy followers?
So those spammy followers are most likely bots. Depending on the hashtags you use, you might end up pulling in bots. So you can block them one by one. You can't block them in bulk. So you'd have to go in and block those people. It doesn't affect your account or anything. Don't think you're being blacklisted or that there's Instagram is sort of targeting you with bots. It's more so people are programming to send to mostly businesses or business pages or creator pages because we're sort of more obvious and out there in comparison to a private page, personal page. So just consider blocking them one by one. But even if you didn't block them, it's fine. I know it's frustrating because sometimes I get a notification and I think it's someone important and it's like a bot that's in my direct messages. So yeah, just try and sort of push that on the side and focus more on the getting the proper DMs.
Okay, so I think that's most of the questions answered. Is there any other resources? Have you done any previous webinars on Instagram? I know you've got a really good blog on social media auditing, and there's some tools. You've got a good blog on the Anika site on that, haven't you? Is there any other resources that you would like to tell people about?
Yeah, so I have that blog on the Anika site. I've also got another one. I think it's on. It's more of a visual aspects, photography for social media.
Yeah.
So that one demonstrates ways that you can get better photography. So this actually links to that. So if you did go on that blog, it's sort of a part 2 to this. So there's that as well. I've done a recent webinar as well. So introduction to Facebook ads, which also relates to Instagram. So when you do Facebook ads, you can essentially go through the Instagram route, and also 11 tips for Instagram business. So what exactly do you need, and sort of recommendations for an Instagram business, which was a webinar featured a few weeks ago. So there's a lot of content out there I'm sure you can find on the Anika site.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put the link to the, actually what I'll do is I'll bring up the offer of what next week's webinar is, and that actually has a link to the resource centre. So if you want to go and go over to the Anika site, you'll be able to sign up to next week's webinar, which is also a creative webinar. This is from Tom Shardlow, who's joined us as our new head of strategy. He only started on Monday, and he's going to be talking about creating the best creative springboard for engagement. So there'll be a lot of creativity stuff in there. But if you follow that link through, you'll get through to the resource page on the website. While we're here, I'll also bring up the DMI course, which starts on the 7th of April. This is a 12-day course for most people are doing it over 12 weeks. We have got, I think, one delegate doing it over 3 weeks, which is like the fast track version. It is a paid course, but at the end of it, you can take your DMI qualifications, Digital Marketing Institute, and there's also the option of the CIM qualifications as well, which is a slightly higher cost. That cost basically goes straight to the CIM. But you use the knowledge from the course. And we will be teaching this in a hybrid way. So if you're not based near enough to travel to Leicester and come to our office in the classroom at Frog Island, you can also dial in digitally as well. And I think that's all the questions. So we will be sending out a video later on. I look forward to Tom joining us next week. But if any of you have got any more questions, I'll just put Ilona's email in the chat. As an agency, we don't do very much organic social. We do a lot of strategy auditing. A lot of the stuff that we do in the team that Ilona's part of is more paid strategies to get to new audiences. But this is really helpful for you guys if you still need to have a good organic presence. I guess the final question I would probably have is, how does paid and organic help each other? Do you is there the equivalent of amplification or boosting in Instagram in the sense that you can create a good post and then try and get it to a new audience? Is there anything you wanted to add on that, Ilona? Sorry,
what was that?
If you've got a really good organic post and how you then spread it with a bit of ads, is there anything that you can do with that?
Yeah, so with doing that, actually, many new companies adapt the boost post option, which we wouldn't advise purely because you're not going to get the right targeting. So the best thing to do is actually create ads via Facebook ads. The ads manager will allow you to distribute ads via Facebook, Instagram, and other sort of networks. But you can sort of separate that, so you can actually cancel out the Facebook and focus more on Instagram, which allows you to feed to a demographic which is ideal. We would actually do something like a strategy behind that. So we'd review the audience you're targeting and do a bit of audience research, which would then allow us to target the right audience, basically the right demographic, which would then lead us to creating ads at your preferred budget. And we would then optimize and monitor it, make sure it's going fine, and allow reporting on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And that would then we would be able to visualize the progression and continue monitoring. So yeah, with organic activity, you can definitely push it out there. There are some examples. So we've got a client that has been pushing out competitions, and I think at most they used to get about maybe 10 or 20 likes with engagement, but now they're reaching about 300 up to 700 likes and over hundreds of comments, just because of the demographic ability we have in targeting and pushing it out there with a small budget, relatively.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't need a huge amount of money, do you?
No, you don't. No. Yeah. I mean, for what we got, for example, so I think over 700 likes, same amount on comments. So that amount of engagement was £100 for the month, if that. So what you put in is what you get out, basically. And with competitions, it's great because you get the page likes increase, as well as the engagement across that. So you do get the objective you want with the money you put in.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Ilona. We've got lots of love and in the chat. So because there's so many people enjoying the webinar, I don't know how many people are still left on, but what I'll do is I'll put the review. So if anybody's still in and they'd like to give a review, just thanking Ilona and the fact that you found it helpful, that I need to upgrade. I need to update that image because I think we've got over 100 reviews now. But that's it, folks. Thanks very much for today and for joining us. And I'll send the video around in a couple of hours when it's been processed. And we'll see you next Friday. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.